Happy Monday and welcome to your Daily Detroit for Monday, July 1st, 2024. Let's get this holiday week started. I hope it will not be too crazy for you. The largest urban equestrian center in the nation is coming right here to the city of Detroit, and we're going to talk about it. I'm Jer Stays, and today we're talking about a brand new facility for students and horses coming to a Detroit neighborhood. Detroit Horsepower is a nonprofit that teaches Detroit students to ride and care for horses, and while working with these amazing animals, it helps them develop critical skills that will set them up for academic, career, and life success. This is going to be a big project. We'll dive into that in less than a minute, but first, I have a huge favor to ask you. Our annual listener and reader survey helps us create better content for you, so if you could, take a few minutes, dailydetroit.com/survey. That's dailydetroit.com/survey. This is the week to let me know what you want more of, what we can do better, all of it. After all, we are nothing without you. All right, to the conversation with David Silver, founder and executive director of Detroit Horsepower. Joining me on the line is David Silver. He is part of and founder of Detroit Horsepower, doing some really interesting things in the city. The thing that we're going to talk about is this idea of building the country's largest urban equestrian center. And since I say equestrian, that means we're talking about horses. Very cool, very interesting. David Silver, welcome to Daily Detroit.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So for people who don't know, maybe not picked up on what Detroit Horsepower is, you're not an automotive supplier.
That's right. This is the original horsepower that predates the automobile.
Awesome. And the kind of projects that you guys are working on.
Well, since 2015, Detroit Horsepower has been picking kids up in the city and driving really far distances to partnering horse barns that allow our 501c3 nonprofit to use their space and their horses for free summer horse camps and an after-school program that instills really important life lessons in Detroit's young people through riding and taking care of horses.
There's so much about horses that is interesting and can be lessons. I have a relative of mine that trained horses, and they're just such wonderful creatures.
Absolutely. The horses have evolved as prey animals and are hyper aware of their environment and potential threats. And so when you approach a horse, you can actually learn a lot about yourself and how the horse perceives you and the kind of relationship and trust that you can build with horses. And this is all just on the ground, just interacting with them, let alone what you can do in the saddle when you're controlling a 1,000 plus pound animal. It can be transformational for how we see ourselves and the world around us. For any age, but especially for an organization like ours focused on youth development, it can be transformational, especially for young people.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of things. Why don't we dive in a little bit more about why that's so transformational and that connection with young people?
Detroit Horsepower's model is really focused on 5 research-based social emotional skills that we call the PERCS traits. That's PERCS with a C, so PERCS stands for perseverance, empathy, responsible risk-taking, confidence, and self-control. Those 5 traits are really at the heart of everything that we do because we love teaching kids how to ride, how to take care of horses. We bring in guest speakers to talk about different equine professions, but our program really comes down to how horses make us better people and equip us with the skills we need to thrive in school and ultimately in life. And so if you hang out with us in Detroit Horsepower's program, you'll hear a lot about the PERCS traits because it's really about how horses are shaping successful life journeys for Detroit's young people.
Well, and how did you get into this? Because, I'm going to say this is a pretty niche thing as far as I don't know if one wakes up one day and says that they're going to do this when they're 8 years old. So this is pretty interesting and pretty cool. How did you come to do all this?
Well, I feel really lucky to be able to put my energy into Detroit Horsepower because this combines several different pieces of my life story and things that are really important to me as someone who was incredibly privileged to have grown up as a competitive horseback rider. Although I'm not from Michigan originally, I'm from the suburbs of New York City, and horses were a huge part of my life growing up. But I moved to Detroit in 2012 to become an elementary school teacher because expanding opportunities for young people growing up in difficult circumstances is a core value of mine, and combining education and the role that horses played in shaping my life in my now home in Detroit for the last 12 plus years, something I feel incredibly lucky to do, and we're fortunate to have a growing team on our staff, on our board of directors, an incredible network of volunteers and partner horse barns that all share in this same commitment that horses have something really special to offer Detroit's future, especially for young people, but also as we're going into the future, what horses can offer an entire community in the city.
About this project, what we've got on the table, doing a bunch of interesting stuff, I believe in the northwest side of town. Let's talk a little bit about that. Kind of what is this going to be? Because I think people kind of got to wrap their minds around a little bit the idea of like basically horses in the neighborhood.
That's right. We've worked for many years in this particular location, going back to 2017, to identify a location in Detroit that's in a community that wants horses to be part of the neighborhood's future. So what we're talking about is the former Paul Robeson school site at Linwood and Fenkell in the Hope Village neighborhood. If you know where Focus Hope is, just off the Lodge Freeway at Linwood and Oakman, it's really around the corner from Focus Hope, this really large educational campus called Paul Robeson Academy, unfortunately burned down in 2011 and has been sitting as a 14-acre open space, a vacant property since 2012. We've reached an agreement, actually just approved earlier in June. Detroit Public Schools Community District, which has been the property owner, agreed to sell the property to Detroit Horsepower based on the years of engagement we've done in the Hope Village neighborhood, and the planning work we've done in partnership with the community and a great team of architects and builders across a range of subject matter expertise, and the fundraising and the city approvals that are also building a lot of momentum to make it possible to add horses as a stronger part of Detroit's future.
So what is this going to look like? Because I imagine there's going to be buildings, but also space for animals. Paint us a picture.
So on this 14-acre property, we will be building stables, which is a pretty good-sized building where the horses will be in at night and where a lot of our programming will be held with the horses, for a maximum of 17 horses. Attached to that building will actually be a much larger structure, which will house our indoor riding arena, because it's important for our program that we can have access for kids to ride horses all year round in cold, snowy weather, that we'll have an indoor arena for programming to take place. And also within that same structure, there will be classrooms for our youth programs and community space, because we really want this to be a hub of neighborhood life. And so surrounded by these structures is going to be a lot of green space. We're going to have ample paddocks, which are fenced in grassy areas for the horses to get out and eat grass every day. There's going to be a half-mile riding trail around the perimeter of the property. There'll be more outdoor riding spaces and kind of more park-like environments on the front. And so it's going to be a very lush and serene space focused on horses, of course, but centered on youth opportunity and healthy neighborhoods.
So where are we on the project timeline? Money, groundbreaking, all of that?
Yeah, we are making big strides towards a groundbreaking on this transformational project in fall of 2024, just a few months away. We've crossed some really big milestones in the last month, really. Like I said, we got approval from the school district to purchase the property after many years of working with them on the right terms of this agreement. We also received site plan approval from the city of Detroit. And so these major milestones for both securing the land and securing the approvals we need to have horses in the city is a really big deal for a project like ours. This is an $11.4 million project, and we have at this point $6.6 million is committed, and we're working to raise the next $2.4 million to close a key gap that will allow us to access a funding stream called new market tax credits. We expect once we get to that $9 million threshold, new market tax credits will take us the rest of the way. And so we've built a huge amount of momentum. We've got key supporters lined up to help close this gap. And we're really confident about breaking ground this fall so that this new community resource and youth development opportunity can begin scaling by the end of 2025.
For those at home who might not know what a new market tax credit is, why is that so important to the project as like a kind of like a piece of this puzzle?
Yeah, it's one of a variety of tools and funding sources that have helped make this possible. We're a relatively new organization founded in 2015 that certainly is building its track record, but a more than $10 million project is way bigger than anything we've ever done as an organization. And so we've really taken an all of the above approach to funding opportunities where, the reason we've gotten this far and will continue to make progress is because of individual donors, foundation grants, corporate sponsorship, governmental support, and opportunities like new market tax credits, which in that case is they call it a but-for funding source, as in it has to be the last piece of funding. And if not for that, then the project wouldn't have all the funding it needs. So once we get to that threshold of about $9 million committed, new market tax credits can help take us the rest of the way. And so it's one of many resources we've identified as a good fit for a unique project like this, focused on stronger communities and youth opportunity. And we're, assembling that coalition of stakeholders that believe in what we've been doing and huge opportunities to expand in the future.
Now, horses are not usually found in city neighborhoods. So what did you have to work with the city government, neighbors, things like that to make this happen and bring everybody together to be on the same page?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'd say, at the outset, the key thing that we start every conversation with is, our mission is focused on expanding opportunities for youth in the city of Detroit. And so that was essential for working with the school district on why they should reach an agreement with us for us to buy this land and develop it for youth programs. That was comes up over and over again in our conversations with the neighborhood about, why they should be interested in learning about what horses can offer their community. But deeper than that, I think as you're asking about, horses it's a pretty out of the box proposal for a neighborhood. And so we have lots of conversations about smell. So, how are we looking at prevailing wind directions and the pickup frequency of the horse manure, and where is it going to go? Can it be available for urban farming and composting? What are the kinds of spillover benefits that this can have? We talk about horse safety and making sure we have a fencing plan that makes the property inviting but secure, and that horses will never ever get out onto a roadway because this sits at a fairly well-trafficked intersection at Linwood and Fenkell. And so I'd say those cover probably the most frequent topics of conversation, but we've had years and years of engaging in the neighborhood and with city government, school district as well, and we're really committed to building that coalition of stakeholders, and it's certainly been years in the making, but we're really excited to have such a strong movement behind this project.
Construction starts in the fall. What are we looking at as far as timeline and what we're going to be seeing here? What are you expecting? Obviously, knowing the world happens. But what is kind of your timeline and thoughts with everything before we wrap up here?
Yeah, breaking ground in fall of 2024 will put us on pace to open this new facility by the end of 2025. And so what we're really looking at in terms of scaling our youth programming is really starting that expansion, with horses available right in the city in the 2025-2026 school year, because we have a really important after-school program that's really the deepest program that we offer. We will also start to offer field trips, especially focused on Detroit Public Schools Community District, because we have a special partnership with them through this land. But, those things will really, start to gain traction through that school year, and especially looking at the summer of 2026. That'll be our first summer season when we're moved into the new facility, and we can't wait. When kids are out of school and the weather is great, that's really our peak season, and when we'll be able to really, take this to really take off.
Well, David Silver, Detroit Horsepower, I really appreciate you and your time on Daily Detroit, and looking forward to following this project. I love creative things.
Oh, we really appreciate your time and spotlight on our organization, and can't wait to be able to share the progress as we move ahead. Hopefully get more voices involved in sharing what this means for our students and the wider community as we really get up and rolling.
You can find out more at DetroitHorsepower.org. All right, that is it for today. Do not forget to tell a friend about this podcast. It is true. It's not social media. It's your personal connections that grow the show and spread the word of what's happening in Detroit. We have our happy hour on Thursday, July 11th at the Royce Wine Bar. Would love to see you. I'll have a link to Eventbrite to RSVP for free in the show notes. A little housekeeping. We are taking July 4th off, of course. It is a federal holiday, but otherwise a normal week in your podcast feeds. Oh, and thank you for taking that survey at dailydetroit.com/survey. My friend, remember that you are somebody, and we'll talk tomorrow.